Hey, welcome back to vlog number 32. We're going to talk about our Durango HouseSit in Colorado. We are filming today from a return visit to Rye, Colorado. As you remembered, we did a HouseSit here. I'm going to say it was back in the early part of May, late part of April. And we're in a nice spot to be able to catch up on some of our vlogs, so we're going to do that while we visit. Anyway. So we had left the Hickory Apache Reservation and headed up north towards Durango, got to our HouseSit. A few highlights from the HouseSit. I won't get into all the details of it, but some of the bigger highlights were, one, the last campground we were in before we got to our Durango HouseSit. I realized that the muffler and tailpipe that came from our Onan generator from the back of the Tiger had sort of separated and broken away from the exhaust flange. So I took it apart at the campsite, looked at it. Obviously it was I believe it was a bit of a design issue. The people at Provan utilize it's just basically the flange and a small piece of pipe, and then they make the tailpipe from there. And every vehicle is a little different because every bumper on the back that's different determines how long the initial part of the tailpipe is. However, that flange was only welded on the inside of the factory. It wasn't welded around the outside, which I think was part of the problem. So I brought it to a welding shop while we were in Durango. Nice guy there. I explained to him the dilemma, asked him if he could put not only a bead of weld back on the inside where we could match up the two pieces again, but also run a bead of weld on the outside without interrupting places where I needed to mount the actual flange back onto the generator. So he did that, and that worked out great. And so far, we've got probably another 1,000 miles on it or so on the road, and run the generator about 8 or 10 times. Seems to be working fine, so we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. The second highlight of the trip was about the third day into our HouseSit, I should say. The third day into our HouseSit, I was out on the deck one morning, and I thought I saw what looked like a really big cumulus cloud down towards Durango from where we were. We were about 8 miles, 10 miles outside of town. And come to find out, it was the beginning of the 416 fire. Now, I just checked the computer the other day, and I can't remember. I'll put the dates, how long ago it's been since this day that I'm making this video, which is about the 23rd or 4th of July. So I know for a fact it's been at least a month, and it's burned about 50,000 acres, and according to 5 days ago, it's only been 50% contained, but it's probably slowing down. You're going to also see that we've also done a HouseSit between where we are right now and then, and that too we experienced a wildfire not too far from where we were house sitting, which is going to be a vlog coming up. That's what's going to be really cool because it was a cool house. So, all right, so the 416 fire was on, and it was burning pretty rapidly at the time, and I think it's consumed a few homes in the process. However, one of the problems that it gave us was a couple of mornings we woke up and the wind had shifted, and it was pretty smoky around where we were. It didn't make breathing difficult anymore, unusually difficult. However, it did sort of close the route that led from Durango to where we were going, which was going to be the Tiger Adventure Vehicle Rally in Leadville. Route 550 out of Durango was fine for about 10 or 15 miles, and then it was closed for about 20 miles, and it really would have interrupted our route south. So what we ended up doing when we finally left was leaving on Route 160 and going around and up and around, sort of about 100, 150 miles out of our way. So that was actually good because we got to see some things we wouldn't have seen if we went up 550. Okay, so that was the second highlight. The third highlight was the dog that we sat with, Josie. It was a Pyrenees cross to a Labrador Retriever, I believe. Very cool dog. Had a great time with her. We were able to have a car, so we could get down to Durango and do a few things, mostly errands. We ate out one time. It was, just a pizza, no big deal. But the HouseSit itself was pretty routine, no surprises. The interesting aspects about that particular area where that HouseSit was, it was located in and we've seen a lot of these, what they call a gated ranch community, which is basically people get 35-acre, 40-acre parcels inside a gated community. It's a home, what do you call it, a home owners association, and they call it a ranch community because cows can graze on it, and it gives them sort of a reduction in their taxes property-wise, much as it did back in Massachusetts under 61A. We had that kind of thing. They call it something different out here, but it's sort of the same thing. It allows them to have 35 or 40 acres of land and only pay so much in taxes as opposed to having it all residential. The problem with where this community was, and I think it was like this in other communities as well, they have a water issue. So these wells typically go down 400 or 500 feet. The water table seems to be, everywhere we're at, seems to be dropping year to year. The house where we were at was probably about 9 years old. The well had already gone dry. The owner had to go a quarter mile away, farther away, and down into a canyon to dig a well in order to keep getting water. I hiked a lot there. The hiking there was pretty cool. Since it was a gated community and it was a large community, but with not a lot of houses on it, I was able to do some hiking. You could go out 2 or 3 hours, not see a house, have some decent views, and etc. I got down into the canyon that was probably a quarter to a half a mile away from her house, and noticed that there were wells just about every 1,000 to 1,500 feet. And all those wells belonged to someone who had been lucky enough to have a piece of property that extended down into this canyon. So here you are up on a ridge, you got a nice view. Hopefully you have a nice piece of property that extends down in the canyon, because that's the only place you're going to find water. I ran into a guy that owned a house probably a quarter of a mile from where we were house sitting in another one of these lots. He had just run out of water that day, and he was not fortunate enough to have a piece of property that extended down in a canyon. So like the neighbor, like another neighbor of hers, he may end up hauling water for the rest of that homeowner's existence. So the well's dried up. There's no chance of digging another well on your property anywhere. You can't dig a well down into the bottom of the canyon unless you buy a piece of property down there. And then what else can you do? You can't sell your house. And these are huge houses. I mean, they're expensive houses. They're not cheap houses. The house right next to where we house sat, which was extraordinarily close. This is quite unusual where it was in proximity to the house where we're sitting, because usually they're farther apart, was for sale for about $1 million. And while we were there, an alarm went off. And I went over to see what was going on. Yvette was somewhere, and I just decided I'd go over and check out the alarm. And come to find out, I thought it was a septic alarm. Well, come to find out, it's not a septic alarm. It's a well alarm. They were out of water. So here's this $1 million house, $1 million plus house for sale. Doesn't have any water, doesn't have any other means to get water, doesn't have a cistern. It's a pretty crazy thing. So interesting attribute about the area. Beautiful house, great views, but you got to haul your water. And there are other people that do. Well, other people haul their water on that community You drive all the way down to Durango, 10 or 12 miles away to a water point. I don't know what they pay for water. We found out later in other parts of Colorado, water can be anywhere between 2 to 15 cents per gallon. So interesting little thought there. So that pretty much wraps it up for our house sit. It was a great house sit, got plenty of rest, did lots of things, caught up on some videos there. Internet was great, dog was great, the homeowner was great. We'll actually put that on our list for probably a repeat house sit the next time we come out to Colorado. So until next time in vlog number 33, we're going to talk about a place that we found called Lost Lake in up near Paonia Springs in Colorado. It's going to be a great video. It's going to have some excellent pictures, so stay tuned for that. So until next time, take care and thanks for all your support. Bye-bye now.